So, yesterday we got the news that broke everyone's hearts and ended all the hope that remained for these five people that were tragically lost. And after using planes, ships, submarines, and remote operating vehicles like subsea robots and everything like that for 4 days, we now know what most likely happened. And I think that at this point, most of you are familiar with what happened and with the story. But basically, five people went on an expedition all the way to the bottom of the ocean at 3,800 meters to see the Titanic wreckage. And this expedition was being conducted with what OceanGate calls the Titan, which is a submersible that can carry up to five people to a depth of 4,000 meters. And this vessel was made out of carbon fiber and had a life support system that could keep five people alive for up to 96 hours, best case scenario. However, after all the speculation, what allegedly happened was they lost all communications and tracking systems, and a loud bang was heard on the headphones. And at the time, this information led multiple experts in this field to think that the submersible would have imploded.
A loud bang, loss of transducer or transponder, loss of comms. I knew what happened. Sub imploded.
When the tracking system went out and everything went out, the only way you could explain it was a catastrophic implosion.
Which was then verified when some parts of the vessel were found just a couple of days later, 500 meters away from where the Titanic wreckage is.
The debris is consistent with the catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber.
The debris field was found less than 500 metres from the bow of the Titanic. 5 major pieces were discovered, including its nose cone, the landing frame, and the tailpiece of the submersible with the OceanGate logo.
Now, most people were still hopeful and thinking that these five people would be found either on the surface, still inside of the submersible, or maybe even stuck in the Titanic's wreckage, because that actually happened a long time ago. And unfortunately, that's not what happened. And the reason why I decided to make this video is not because I've just decided to, talk about random stuff and stop making videos about cybersecurity, or just because this is now a trendy topic. Absolutely not. Lives were lost, and for me, it's impossible not to feel compassion for everyone who lost someone in this tragic incident. But the thing that really troubles me is maybe this devastating outcome could have been prevented if security was taken as the #1 priority.
This was such a preventable tragedy. We've never had a tragedy like this in the entire history of deep submergence, deep diving.
When all the news started coming out, especially on Twitter and other social media platforms, I started seeing so many memes about Logitech gaming controllers and MacGyver inventions.
I couldn't help noticing how many pieces of this sub seemed improvised.
We only have one button, that's it. It should be like an elevator. I got these from Camper World. We run the whole thing with this game controller.
I really couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I'm completely aware that this is the reality that we are living in. I mean, the internet is completely undefeated, and no matter what happens, people are always going to find new ways to make fun of it. But what I don't even know what to say, man.
The last thing somebody should be thinking about when they get into a sub to pay to go deep as a tourist or as a what do you call it, like a lay explorer, they shouldn't have to worry about the sub that they're in. This is just engineering.
Who would risk doing something like this with such equipment? And I'm not saying this as if I were like a submersible or a submarine expert, but come on. No security certifications or any type of licenses.
You have these highly certified systems like Alvin at Woods Hole, which Bob is very familiar with. Even the Russian submersibles that I dove with, every 5 years they had to be reclassified and recertified and so on. And you have all these legitimate deep diving operations around the world, and even most of the tourist operations around the world use certification from, let's say, ABS, the American Bureau of Shipping, and this particular outfit didn't do that.
After seeing all of these posts and memes and people making fun of the situation, I started doing some research on my own, and even though OceanGate's website has been down for the last days, I noticed multiple articles and posts that were done in the past about multiple experts, both from inside and outside of the company, that had previously shown security concerns and alerted OceanGate for the potential dangers of what they were doing, and urging the need to undergo a certification process. And in one of those articles, I came upon one situation where an employee from the company was fired and sued in 2018 for exposing major safety concerns and issues with the Titan submersible. This man named David, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but it's something like Rochridge. I'm sorry if I mispronounce it, but he claimed that there was almost no unmanned testing of the craft. The alarm would only sound off milliseconds before an implosion. The porthole was only certified to withstand pressure of 1300 meters below the surface, even though OceanGate planned to take the submersible to almost 4,000 meters underwater. And in the end, again, this resulted in a lawsuit against David. They claimed that he was basically exposing or disclosing confidential information about the Titan submersible, as if that was more important than actually fixing the issues. And you know what the worst part of all of this is that people still went and did the trips, many times. Despite all the red flags, multiple issues, incidents, and system failures, people still went for it. Even though they had to sign a waiver that mentioned death 3 times on the very first page.
An experimental submersible vessel that has not been approved or certified by any regulatory body and could result in physical injury, disability, emotional trauma, or death. Where do I sign?
Now, there's still a lot more to the full story and more details about the submersible, but for me at least, that's not the most important thing. For me, what matters is knowing that 5 lives were tragically lost in this incident. And all we can do now is at least try to learn what happened and make sure that we do our best so that this never happens again. I mean, think about this. Have you seen how serious some industries have to conduct security testing? And I'm not talking about your typical software with quality assurance and stress testing and security testing and boom, it's ready for production. Yay. No, I'm actually talking about every single industry where lives could be at risk. So think of the transportation industry, for example, like cars, boats, planes, and even spaceships, and in this case, submersibles, submarines. I mean, we all know, or at least it should be common sense, that in these types of industries and with these types of products where lives are at risk, there should be like a very, very, very strict security process and licensing process. Because if anything happens, lives will be lost. And if that's not the worst case scenario, I don't know what it is. And of course, accidents will still happen. We have seen it before. Lives were lost in space operations, test flights, or even in manufacturing processes. And this should be precisely the reason why these types of industries must have a strong focus on security testing and especially on compliance, because compliance is what drives security. And contrary to what some people believe, compliance is not just a cost of doing business. And I firmly believe that if OceanGate have been stopped earlier, a long time ago, for lack of compliance in security licenses and certifications, all of this could have been avoided. But let me know what you think about this. How do you think security issues should be managed and handled? Should security be considered just as a cost of operations, or should it be a top priority? Which in my opinion, it should always be a top priority, especially in these types of industries. And also, please be respectful to the families and friends that just lost someone. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.